We're back with former MP Joy Smith, who changed the laws surrounding human trafficking in Canada. She now works full-time with the Joy Smith Foundation with the goal of ending human trafficking. That is a huge goal.
It's a very possible goal because all things through Christ Jesus is possible. And I think for such a time as this, God's hand is on Canada because He certainly doesn't want kids bought and sold. And so He's causing people all across Canada, I believe, to rise up and work in their area, which is multifaceted, to stop and protect our to stop human trafficking and protect our very vulnerable.
You know, I think when we talk about this just happening down the street, the average person in Canada feels like, what in the world could I do? Like, I'm not in that world, I don't have the expertise. What can the average person watching right now do to help make a difference?
Well, first of all, they can become knowledgeable about it. And I have to say, the documentary Human Trafficking, Canada's Secret Shame, it's Canadian, it's authentic. It's not Hollywood, it's just real people where they've experienced dads, NGOs, police officers, survivors. Where here in Canada, they've experienced this terrible human trafficking issue. So become knowledgeable about it. The second thing is, you know, take action, talk about it, and look at the cues. When your kid walks in the door and they suddenly have a gold chain that a friend gave to them, when they have 2 cell phones instead of 1, and you're not sure where that extra cell phone came from, when their attitudes change, their grades have lowered, when they're not as interested in their old friends as in all their new friends. Because usually a lot of kids get new friends, but they also keep their old friends. So there's triggers that you can, red flags as it were, that you can watch as a parent. And you know, that's why we're trying to get this education into the schools so the kids themselves can recognize. In fact, we do have a school program, grade 8 to 12, and we've had so many young women in particular who've come up and said, after hearing your presentation, I think that my boyfriend's grooming me. And outside of one school, all the other schools I've been in, someone has come up.
Okay, let's just stop. Every single school you've been in, with the exception of one, you've had someone come to you say, I think I'm being groomed.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think a lot of parents are going, wow, that's good for other parents to know, but it would never happen to my child.
You know, we're changing a whole environment in Canada right now. The environment used to be, oh, prostitution is Canada's oldest profession. Well, it's not. It's the oldest oppression. And we talk about murdered and missing women. I believe 98% of them were trafficked long before they were murdered and missing. They were trafficked, and then suddenly they become the prostitutes. It's the same with, you know, what we look at with girls selling their bodies for sex. You know, the average age of entry into the sex trade is 12 to 14 years here in Canada. For 12 to 14 years old, they don't even know about sex at that time. They're influenced, they're conditioned, they're groomed by so-called boyfriends who are usually 2 or 3 years older than they are. And they make a lot of money out of them. They're bought and sold like cattle. They're even tattooed. And the horrific stories you hear after a survivor comes out of it. But it always starts with trust. Trust a certain woman, trust a man. It's not only men. Traffickers make a lot of money, and all their team makes a whole lot of money off of one victim. So it's worth that grooming process, you know, where they gain their trust and then they gain control. And once they gain control of them, it's game over.
I had a friend who used to spend the first night with trafficking victims, and she said most of them, even though they were just rescued, did not see themselves as being trafficked. This was their boyfriend, and they were doing it to help grow their life, and they really don't see it that way until someone starts to educate them.
That's exactly it, because they get something called Stockholm syndrome. It's like abused women when they don't leave their husbands because they have this sort of Stockholm system. They think syndrome. They think something's going to change. That's what happens to these young girls because they've been brainwashed. It's a very clever brainwashing. There's even websites now that show how to groom a girl for human trafficking. It's an insidious crime. It's a crime that hasn't been out front. It's a deceptive crime. And so people are finding out about it more and more. If you put human trafficking cases on your Google, anybody out there who does that, you'll see all the wonderful work the police officers are doing all across this country, bringing trafficking rings down right here in Canada. But then you look at how old is that person when they started and what was their life like. It is a horror show. So this is what kids have to know. Be careful, protect yourselves. It's a program that, you know, parents and teachers and everybody should be teaching the youth.
And aware of. If people want to connect more with the work that you do with the Joy Smith Foundation or get a hold of the documentary that you mentioned, how would they do that?
Just get on my website. It's easy, joysmithfoundation.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming to visit us today.
So welcome.